Good morning. Welcome to the Meristem Minute. This morning we have Tim Eyrick with us, and he is going to talk to us about how we can truly be efficient with our nitrogen. A lot of side dresses going on right now, and so we want to make sure we're getting the most value out of that nitrogen. So, Tim, take it away.
Good morning. When we talk about nitrogen efficiency, we use a lot of different words for it, but simply it's, how many pounds of nitrogen does it make to make a bushel of grain? And to think about that, we got to think about when that bushel of grain is being made, what else is going on in the plant, how that plant's utilizing nitrogen. So we're going to kind of talk about that today. But the biggest thing I want to tie it back to is ear development. Where most people in the upper Midwest and the Corn Belt are in this V5 to V6, V7, V8 range. That's when our numbers are being made. And there's really 5 drivers to what I call row number plasticity. We know every time we've walked out in the field and we measure off a thousandth of an acre and we look at all the ears, we can have ears going from 16 rounds to 18 rounds to 20 rounds, all in that 17 or 26 foot a row. What's causing that? And there's really 5 drivers. The first driver is light interception per plant. The more light I can get, the better chance I have of having an ear go from a 16 round to an 18 or an 18 to a 20. So our starters should do that. Making big leaves as soon as we come out helps drive that. The other thing that we're going to talk most about today is number 2, is early season nitrogen. In stress before V8 will shrinken the window or the number of rounds. If we get deficient on nitrogen, or we have to spend a lot of energy utilizing the nitrogen that we're giving it, we can have a perfect condition to make 18 rounds and we'll make 16 rounds. We'll talk more about that. That's going to be the more focus of today. Temperature and GDU is going to drive the number of rounds. Cooler nights, good warm days, sunlight, but cooler nights, I'm gonna throw more rounds. I'm gonna stretch that from 16 to 18 and 18 to 20. Soil moisture is important, really can't be dry, and stand uniformity. That way they're all on the same page. I'm not shading out. I'm not fighting for nutrients. They're all kind of getting an even look at sunlight and even look at moisture and even look at food. Thing that I really want to talk about today is that there is a cost in energy. So we're side dressing UAN, either 28 or 32, depending on where you're at. UAN is 50% urea, 25% ammonium, and 25% nitrate. So all 3 forms are plant available. 2 of them are not plant usable. It costs the plant some energy to get them to a form that it can use, and 1 is plant available, so usable. So my nitrates are not plant usable. They've got to be converted. I got to get these oxygens off. Ammonium is the only form of nitrogen that the plant will take if that's plant usable. The plant can use NH4 to turn it in to make amino acids and proteins and make money. Okay, that's where your ROI comes from. Urea, it has to go through some reducing to be able to get back there. So if I look at expense on that, the energy the plant has to use to make nitrate usable to plant, or urea usable plant, or ammonium, we can compare them. So you look at nitrate, let's look at energy. As the plant's energy is what we call ATP. So think of that as a gallon of gas. 1 ATP equals 1 gallon of gas. When the plant takes up nitrate, it's going to use 12 gallons of gas to get this to a form that you can make money with your nitrogen. It's going to use 5 gallons of gas to get urea to a form that you can make money out of it. It only uses about 2 gallons of gas to get ammonium to a form where you can use it. Think of this in another, a little bit, maybe a little different way, is think of it as sugar burned or sugar diverted. Sugar burned is all about the same. So we've got this one way to look at it as gasoline. The thing that really kills us when we're getting the plant to use when the plant's using more nitrate during this air initiation stage than ammonium is sugar. Where actually there's 12 pounds of sugar per acre per day in this V8 to or this V5 to V8 stage um, that the leaf never made that could make kernels used to make nitrate available. So the
So,
question
Tim,
we should
how do we
ask,
make that conversion a bit easier for the plant or make the plant focus on the type of nitrogen that we want it to?
perfect. So we're side dressing, and so we're placing it in a perfect place, right? We're either using a wide drop or we're dribbling it right along the edge. So we are putting it where the root can find it. The plant will figure out what's out there. What we want to do is try to keep, remember, cheaper, cheaper. I don't lose sugar. I don't lose sugar. So I want most of it in this, when I'm side dressing in this V5 to V8 stage, I want as much as the urea and ammonium to be getting the plant at a greater rate than my nitrate. Remember, 75% of a gallon of UAN is going to be urea or ammonium, right? So my forms that are easy for the plant to convert and don't rob me of sugar that'll make a kernel are these two forms. So there's one really good way to keep this in the root zone longer and not have it convert to nitrates, and that's using something like N-Gear. N-Gear is going to hold more of the nitrogen, the ammonium we put out, and the urea in a ammonium type of form for a longer period of time, which is going to give us the ability to use these two cheaper uh, forms of nitrogen or easier to use. The big payoff of this is if we look at this 11 pounds per acre per day of sugar that the plant never makes because it's trying to make nitrate usable to the plant, that is probably 5 to 7 bushels per acre, just in the loss of that sugar not being made that the plant would have used to make an ear. That's maybe popping a 16 to an 18 or an 18 to a 20. One of the models I put this through, uh, it's a kind of a plant growth model for corn, says it could be anywhere from 5 to 12 bushels per acre of lost sugar when the plant has to convert nitrate. So the important thing is that you have a management tool that mitigates that loss in N-Gear. So putting N-Gear in with your side race nitrogen is going to hold more of it longer in a urea to ammonium form. And all I've got to do is hold it from that V5 to V8 longer to give me a yield. It can all go to nitrates after V8 if we need it to, or V9, because that energy, I've already got my kernel numbers made, right? So I'm just trying to hold it for that very short period of time, which can be what, 7, depending on the weather, 4 to 7 days. Um, and that's what N-Gear does really well. It's going to hold ammonium right in that root zone, let the plant take more ammonium up. Corn is a plant that will take ammonium up very rapidly, very easily. It's going to take a little nitrate up, but we're just trying to balance this whole equation to favor an ammonium urea use versus a nitrate use.
So, Tim, you brought up how N-Gear works specifically with UAN. How's that compared to some competitive products that would be put in with UAN?
So, you know, the most cost one that people try to say is sulfur. And uh, there's a lot of debate on what the sulfur is really doing there for stabilization. Um, there's probably some microbial activity there. Literature kind of goes back and forth on it. I'm on the opinion why we see better nitrogen use efficient when we put sulfur with the nitrogen is not as much in the stabilization side of it, it's on the using side of it. Nitrogen, especially nitrate, needs sulfur once it gets in the plant to get all these oxygens off. So I don't see it as holding or create an environment that's conducive to the uptake of ammonium and urea over nitrate. I see it as more internal in the plant of making this nitrate that is taken up more usable. So there's a lot of there's a lot of debate on that. I think it depends on which camp you're in. So I'm not a big proponent of sulfur being a stabilizer of the nitrogen as much as I am as its ability to help utilize the nitrate that's taken up.
Excellent.
This cost is still here, whether that sulfur is there. That cost is going to be there whether there's sulfur or not. Okay. I just need sulfur to get here. What I want to do is keep these two in that root zone longer, my urea and my ammonium, because it's costing me nothing, right? I'm not losing any sugar that could be turned into kernels when that's being taken up. And we can do that. That's what Ingear does very nicely. I'm not going to hold that ammonium and urea there for till it gets to tassel. That's simply not going to happen, but I don't have to, right? I've got this critical growth stage. I call it elemental prominence. So nitrogen is prominent in the crop for kernel development from V5 to V8. And I only have to manage that little window, right? I don't have to manage season long. And that's what Ingear does very, very effectively. It's going to break down sooner or later. It's going to go away. Most of that nitrogen that we put out here, uh, most of that urea and ammonium, or probably all of it, is going to start converting to nitrate, but I only need to hold it there for about 4 to 7 days.
Excellent. So, Tim, what I'm hearing is when guys are putting out UAN, end gear is a really key factor in making sure that we're efficient, that we're using the right forms of nitrogen in the most efficient manner without costing our plant energy to really
Without
create that yield.
without costing it energy, that's where it is, that's here. And without this is going to make an amino acid. This is going to make amino acid. Remember, your return on investment from nitrogen, my ROI from nitrogen only comes to me when I make an amino acid and a protein. If these aren't made, my nitrogen's a cost. This is going to make amino acids easily. This will make an amino acid a bit easier. This takes a lot of work to make an amino acid. So the end gear is doing two things at a very critical time that I need this to happen to get my ROI. It's allowing me to use the easy route, right? I get to go the express lane, Melanie. Uh, this without using end gear is putting me in the traffic and it's slowing me down. And my ROI is going to take longer to realize. I may not realize it at all. Uh, it's not in kernel numbers. Uh, and so that's the point there is we've really got to understand how the plant utilizes nitrate. It is complex, try to simplify it as much as I can, but it really comes in. This key point is let's use what the plant would really like to use at a time where it's not taking energy away from yield.
Secondly, the other thing I heard, Tim, is, a lot of guys think that sulfur does some stabilization. And really, that's not sulfur's key role. But you brought up a great agronomic. Sulfur is key in this stage. It's really important. It's important to have in the tank. And so doing a side dress with UAN, having about that 10% sulfur to nitrogen percent is a great tool to help with that. But then having end gear in the tank from a nitrogen stabilization really helps you gives you that efficient key point that we
Exactly.
discussed.
So I want to make sure, and that's a good point, because I don't want anybody to say, well, I shouldn't put sulfur in the tank at all. I'm saying absolutely put sulfur in the tank, but know why you need to put sulfur in the tank. And the sulfur in the tank is to utilize the nitrate. So you look at that nitrate, right? I got to get these oxygens off. What the plant's going to do with nitrate eventually is turn into ammonium. And then it's going to make amino acids and proteins. This is where the energy comes in. Getting this NO3 to the ammonium is where the energy is. That's where I'm losing all this energy and all this yield potential. To get this to happen, to get to get NO3 to NH4, it takes sulfur. Sulfur is essential in this whole mechanism of getting all these oxygens off and getting the hydrogen on. So you should never be side dressed. You should never make a nitrogen application ever, foliar or solipide, without some sulfur with it, because you're guaranteeing the tool to make that nitrate available or usable by the plant. And remember, ROI, it's got to become usable, right? The nitrate's got to become usable as the NH4, and that's when my ROI happens on my nitrogen.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tim, for the agronomic lesson and helping us understand how we can be extremely efficient with our nitrogen. And with that, that's our Meristem Minute.